Hey everybody, it is Bridgette. And this is the Conscious of Economics and YouTube channel. Anyway, I'm getting ready to go over to a food production backyard build that I did like 7 years ago. And shortly, it's a 4-season, but shortly after I stopped, doing it, it kind of went, it's been an apocalyptic condition ever since. And so I'm going over there to kind of see if I can start resurrecting it. So that's why I look so attractive today. No bling bling. Yeah. So I've been thinking so much about so many things, so many signs, and the more complicated, it's interesting because I've been dealing a lot with millennials and younger generation, let's just say 35 down. And it's been, pretty chaotic. And just watching this, spell that they're under, and they kind of live like partial reality. Actually, I don't think they're living in any kind of reality. Oh, here comes somebody passing me in a 1-lane road. Yeah, because they're like in such a giant hurry. A hurry for what? I have no idea. You can't outrun reality, right? It's a whole day, 24/7. And you got 7 of them in a week. And then you've got sometimes 30 of them in a month. And that's just kind of how the reality works here. And it's always interesting to me that people they're making up their own fantasies in this reality. And it's not real until you make it real. The millennials, because of the MK Ultra fantasy reality that, was projected onto them and developed in them, is kind of like all about, living in like this fantasy that doesn't exist, almost like in a fairy tale type illusion. And then they start making, solidifying things like mandala effect. And I've talked about this before on radio shows that, it's always been what it is. It's just people weren't smart enough or intelligent enough or literate enough or educated enough or researching enough to actually see these facts in reality. So it's very confronting to the ego when it pops up, so much so that you have to develop these alternative methods for explaining it, because it's a hard thing for you to say, oh well, I just am not educated enough, or my ego, or my this, that, or the other thing. So yeah, mandala effect works better, right? When these things have always been there. It's just, you haven't spent time, actually living in the truth. And so you've got to create some other projection, some other law, some other, like, law of physics or whatever, it's going to be. So anyway, it's just interesting. And then it gets passed around and passed around and passed around. And then it makes it real. It makes it, a scapegoat. And then you have, things like law of attraction, which I've talked about a lot. And the more you make that real, the more people speak it or talk about it, brings it kind of into existence. A lot of the native people that I know don't talk about things because they know that if you talk about it, you bring it to yourself and, make it more kind of real and create it. So things that are really, really negative, they just refuse to talk about. They will not talk about because they don't want to bring it, to themselves. They don't want to resurrect it and make it like alive. So yeah, in the great scheme of things, anyway, so, just a lot of other stuff. It's like ascensionism, I'm not saying like this world isn't a holographic world, but the collective keeps projecting onto it, and it's creating like a really crazy, crazy, only getting crazier, multiple, just the way that the whole thing is functioning, it's just getting crazier and crazier and crazier and so chaotic because so many things just keep getting imprinted on it collectively. And then you keep having the same imprint, the law of attraction, the law of attraction, the law of attraction, Mandela effect, Mandela effect, Mandela effect, that those things start to override and complicate the system. And it makes it more challenging and more unnavigatable. And that's why it's just good to like go to where you feel something and get out of your mind and get out of all this spiritual stuff. Get out of all your emotional, stuff. And just get in the present moment and just kind of feel, like, sense. Wake up in the morning and kind of just get a sense of how you feel. Today, for example, I woke up and I had this, just was dragging, and just got up to start my day, but just had this sense of dragging. So to honor myself, I just not participated in the dragging, but allowed myself to deal with the dragging so that I could collectively get myself together, all parts of me on one page, and be able to move out and get, my day going and get the day rolling. And, each moment of the day, I'm kind of like having to look over a little bit more. Right now, I'm just kind of getting into action work mode because I have to clean up a kind of a, an overwhelming food production. Once I get started, it's not going to be a big deal. And I've got like a small focus of what I want to complete in the next few days. And then collectively with the people, we'll take another step forward to get the things that, we need to get in order to, do the next phase. because I totally believe you really need to be growing your food right now, because all of this imprinting and projection and being in your own mind and all this other stuff is keeping you from actually seeing the real picture, which is there's not going to be any food to eat by the time that you wake up. And then you'll get to blame. You'll get to blame somebody other than yourself. But, you know, personal responsibility is the number one thing. Personal responsibility for your mind, your emotions, your physical body, which includes food, water, maybe shelter, happiness, whatever else, energetically. So this would be your fault. And so I'm taking action by helping others to create, go back and re-examine an old food production and, attempt to help to put action into it and energy to, move it forward. So, and so that's kind of like, what I'm doing. What am I not doing? I'm not being taken in by fantasy. I'm not under a spell. I'm not, sitting around waiting for information or somebody else's thoughts. And this goes back to like a lot of the work Par and I did on languaging. We started with understanding, broke it down. Understanding is being under somebody else's understanding, developing, accepting their take on whatever it is. I understand is not a good thing, because I'm taking in what you've said and I'm making that my law, my belief, instead of actually, thinking about, what was said. And then we took it to this place called honor standing, which is to honor ourself and to be in integrity and to speak our truth and develop our own concepts and structures based on information gathering, and assessing and assimilating the information and digesting it and kicking out what doesn't work and keeping what may work, and then regurgitating that and my understanding. But then I'm not under somebody else's feet. I'm not under their understanding and their belief systems. And then we moved to, I found out that heathen, in the Nordic, languages, heathen is actually like a really good thing. And it can be about ancient wisdom and knowledge and just, working together and just a lot of other really positive things. So then we went to heathen understanding, which is like a super play on words, but super fun, really. I think I just want to make sure I don't have anything stuck in my teeth. Anyway, I thought I had like a spinach in there. And then now we're working, I had somebody listening, to my radio show sent me this really great conscious email, and about them having listened to 6 months of this movement of this standing of, and then they proposed this word that I really loved, which was inner standing. And that is, I'm feeling what I'm feeling in this moment, in this inner introspection of my world and how I feel. And this is my inner standing. This is what, what I'm standing on is my own truth based on feeling about my world and my reality, and communicating this, out, expressing it. So sometimes I just feel overwhelmed and kind of at an impasse, because I know how difficult it was. And I came from bloodlines of people, who have been murdered and destroyed, who have abilities, who help the planet, who benefit the whole, who are good beings, very awake beings. But I had a degree of unconsciousness and being under, spells. And a Lakota Sioux medicine woman that I studied with when I was 23 cared about me enough to take a really hard stance against it. And she wouldn't actually discuss these things. She wouldn't engage my mind on it, because then I would just distort it again, because I would be using my mind, and then, the distortion would inevitably take over. And so she engaged me with breaking it, breaking the spell in a very harsh way, where I had to have, major emotional breakdowns and rejection and abandonment, and go through all these processes to break free of these spells, And think about it, spells are binding. They're bondage, bondage. And it can take a huge amount of time and work to understand your way out of them, so that you can get out of understanding in other people's feats and belief systems, and, basically create your own from how you feel. And how you feel is a very difficult place to be, because you have to really feel it every minute of your day, until you are in control of your mind and your emotions and your energetic space, and your physical, self, and your physical reality. And we're running so fast because we think we're going to get the end of this marathon, and there's going to be this line we can run through. I made it. And then everything's going to be perfect. And it's not. Because, you're going to wake up 40 years later and go, great, now I'm dying, and I really never had a life, really never got time to explore my inner standing, my inner horizons. And so there's this point between doing that work and an action, right? The action has to come into play. Because the action part is the fire part in alchemy, which is what changes everything. So one of my friends said this morning, I was trying to explain a lot of this stuff to her, and she said, oh, I need to get in a meditative state. And I said, nope, there you go again. It's the checkout. Because there has to be action, right? There has to be physical action. I think that's why things like magical passes, tensegrity, yoga, tai chi, a lot of these, other things are putting yourself into a position where you are dealing with your feelings. You're also actually breaking through blocks and restrictions. And then you're also moving energy out in the world work a lot better than the inaction of just meditating. And meditative state, a lot of people like to just smoke pot or whatever else and go into a meditative state, or microdose, or do all these other things, to reach elevated consciousness. And it's but you have nothing here. Here is where you have the job. Here is where you need to do the work. Here, not there. Here. Be here now. Huge Ram Dass fan. Be here now. And he struggled his whole life to be here now. He went through strokes and cancer and all kinds of stuff, as his development unfolded, and they had to break down his ego and insecurity and his justifications and all these, other things that were standing in the way of, freedom. That's what it really kind of boils down to. Anyway, I know I just kind of rambled on today, but I felt like I should do a video and just trying to, find new ways to express my understanding, to try to help other people to break free of the constraints, the binding, the bounds, the bondage of, the collective spell, the collective craft, MK Ultra, mind control, whatever we want to attach onto it. There's lots of different systems of beliefs, but it's basically a collective hypnosis through energetic methods that grab and hold hostage of your right hemisphere and stuff it full of nonsense, these images and these pictures of nonsense that are in there, that keep you from actually using, your whole brain, to dissect it. If I hear one more time the picture in my head, I'm just gonna scream so loud like the whole planet rocks. Let's talk about the feeling. Let's talk about the feeling in your gut. Let's talk about the feeling in your heart. Let's talk about the feeling in your energetic field. Let's talk about the feeling, and not the picture. Because the picture is not the same as the word and is not the same as the feeling. And the only thing that matters is the feeling. The rest of it doesn't matter. It's the feeling that matters. And how you feel matters. And how you transmute that into feelings that you want to have, without effort, doing work in order to shift it into, you don't have to deal with it daily anymore, but you notice it. You'll be like fine, and then all of a sudden, like now, I'll just notice a shift, and this is the thing, is like I've got it down so much energetically, like, I'm not perfect, but I can watch the light change, especially if I'm around electronic lighting, digital lighting, and say I'm in a store and I walk in with, in one place of feeling, and then all of a sudden something happens and shifts me, a thought, an incident, could be a lot of different things, and I'll notice that the lighting changes, and I know that the surroundings change a little bit, and so I can tell now, when I'm shifting into places of feeling that, like I'm not really interested in being in, but I have to surrender and accept and acknowledge what I'm feeling at that moment and why, right? Because it leads me to not participating in certain types of events that trigger me in certain ways. Like, for example, one of the things that I do a lot of the last couple of years is I ask myself, okay, if I help these people do this, or I, give this person some sessions for free, or I put this out, or I do this, or I go back to doing radio, or I quit radio, or whatever I'm going to do, how am I going to feel about that? And so the number one emotion that I don't contribute to, now it may happen, there may be triggers that cause me, but that I don't contribute to, is anger. So Anyway, so basically, I ask myself if I do this or I do that, or what's going on, or how I feel about this, if I keep engaging this, do I want to help this person? Like I said, do I give people free work? Do I, blah, 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 blah. And my question is always, am I going to feel angry or resentful about doing anything? And if I get a yes, or I get a feeling more, an introspective, understanding that, I already have some resistance or anger, or, if the person behaves this way, then I'm going to definitely feel like this, then I stop and I don't move forward with the situation, because I'm not going to perpetuate my anger, and I'm not going to participate in enhancing it. It may happen to me, but I'm not going to use my free will, my third chakra, so that I have to play the role of ego or insecurity. And it totally blocks me from being in my heart, because I'm stuck kind of down in the 3 lower gears. So I won't participate in things after I question myself about how it's going to make me feel. How will I feel about this? So if this happens, then I'll feel this way about it. This happens, I'll feel this way about it. So I always lean towards the negative aspect of what could happen as, my guiding point, because I know from doing a lot of work exactly what's going to set me off. I know exactly where it's going to drag me. I know where it's going to take me, where it's going to hook me in. And if I can acknowledge it from the get-go, then I can save myself a lot of heartache and also, guilt and, other things that may arise as a direct result of, our trigger happy reactive behavior that is part of the spell that we're under. And so we run polarity, we run duality, we run separation, we run all these things. And so we're in a 2D because we can't figure out how to get in the center to balance. That would be the 3D. So, yeah, stop working the 2D and, start doing some work. Ask yourself questions about everything. So I'll leave you guys a practice. Something that, I have my clients do. And it's a maximum of a 6-month practice. You could maybe even do, I don't know, 6 weeks, right? Basically what you do is you get recipe cards. You want the cards to be exactly the same, plain front and back, maybe lines on one side, but the same size. And so every time something pops into your head, you write on the line side. Could be a question, could be a thought, could be negative, positive, it doesn't matter. You just write it down. Then you fold it into 4. So you fold it in half and then in half. And you need to make sure that when you do this, you always fold the card the same way and you always write on the same side, because you cannot have a card that looks out of place, right? That what's on it because it didn't get folded. So everything needs to be symmetrical and uniform. And you have a basket and you just keep throwing stuff in there, or a box, you poke it through a hole, however you want to do it. And then at the end of your time frame, you sit down and you open it all up and you unfold them and you kind of feel your way through them. So If you have a positive feeling about the card, you put it in a positive pile. If you have a negative feeling about the card, you put it in a negative pile. Once you've got them sorted, then you're going to take the negative pile and you're going to throw them away or shred them or burn them or, whatever you need to do, right? Because it's over and done with. It's gone. It's not important. Then you take the positive pile and you start doing the work with a positive pile. And so if it's a question, maybe you work on that with a couple other recipe cards that you put into that box again. You start another process until you get it broken down so far that you've just got a couple answers. You got a couple, and this is also how you clean the chatter out of your mind. This is an action-oriented way to clean the chatter out of your mind. Instead of trying to sit and let the clouds go by, you can actively participate in clearing the chatter in your mind. Anyway, I always do sessions. I always do amazing consulting sessions. And I do charge for them. And you can go to the website, COE-LLC, and you could look at the fees. And, if you're interested in having a session so that you can kind of get on top of, some of the things that are defeating you are defeating you, but, figure some of that out, just contact me and we can set you up a, Zoom appointment and go from there. So, but anyway, that's it. I've got to get to work and I hear a shovel calling me. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.